It was just then that Miss Minchin entered the room. She was very like her house, Sarah felt, tall and dull and respectable and ugly. She had large, cold, fishy eyes and a large, cold, fishy smile. It spread itself into a very large smile when she saw Sarah and Captain Crew. She had heard many desirable things of the young soldier from the lady who heard that from the lady who had recommended her school to him. Among other things, she had heard that he was a rich father who was willing to spend a great deal of money on his little daughter. It will be a it will be a great it will be a great privilege to have charge of such a beautiful and promising child, Captain Crew, she said, taking Sarah's hand and stroking it. Lady Meredith has told me of her unusual cleverness. A clever child is a great treasure in an establishment like mine. Sarah stood quietly with her eyes fixed upon Miss Minchin's face. She was thinking something odd, as usual. What, why does she say I am a beautiful child? She was thinking. I am not beautiful at all. Colonel Grange's little girl, Isabel, is beautiful. She has dimples and rose-colored cheeks and long hair the color of gold. I have short black hair and green eyes. Besides which, I am a thin child, and not fair in the least. I am one of the ugliest children I ever saw. She is beginning by telling a story. She was mistaken, however, in thinking she was an ugly child. She was not in the least like Isabel Grange, who had been the beauty of the regiment. But she had an odd charm of her own. She was a slim, supple creature, rather tall for her age, and had an intense, attractive little face. Her hair was heavy and quite black, and only curled at the tips. Her eyes were greenish-gray. It is true, but they were big, wonderful eyes with long black lashes, and though she herself did not like the color of them, many other people did. Still, she was very firm in her belief that she was an ugly little girl, and she was not at all elated by Miss Minchin's flattery. I should be telling a story if she said I was beautiful, she thought, and I should know I was telling a story. I believe I am as ugly as she is, in my way. What did she say that for? After she had known Miss Minchin longer, she learned why she had said it. She discovered that she said the same thing to each papa and mamma who brought a child to her school. Sarah stood near her father and listened while he and Miss Minchin talked. She had been brought to the seminary because Lady Meredith's two little girls had been educated there, and Captain Crew had a great respect for Lady Meredith's experience. Sarah was to be what was known as a parlor boarder, and she was to enjoy even greater privileges than parlor boarders usually did. She was to have a pretty bedroom and sitting room of her own. She was to have a pony and a carriage, and a maid to take the place of the ayah, who had been her nurse in India. I am not in the least anxious about her education, Captain Crew said with his gay laugh, as he held Sarah's hand and patted it. The difficulty will be to keep her from learning too fast and too much. She is always sitting with her little nose burrowing into books. She didn't read them, Miss Minchin. She gobbles them up, as if she were a little wolf instead of a little girl. She is always starving for new books to gobble, and she wants grown-up books, great big fat ones, French and German, as well as English, history and biography, poets, and all sorts of things. Drag her away from her books when she reads too much. Make her ride her pony in the row, or go out and buy a new doll. She ought to play more with dolls. Papa, said Sarah, if I went out and bought a new doll every few days, I should have more than I could be fond of. Dolls ought to be intimate friends. Emily is going to be my intimate friend. Captain Crewe looked at Miss Minchin, and Miss Minchin looked at Captain Crewe. Who is Emily? Tell her, Sarah, Captain Crewe said, smiling. Sarah's grey eyes looked very solemn and quite soft as she answered. She is a doll I haven't got yet, she said. She is a doll my papa is going to buy for me. We are going out together to find her. I have called her Emily. She is going to be my friend when papa is gone. I want her to talk about him. Miss Minchin's large, fishy smile became very, very flattering indeed. What an original child, she said. What a darling little creature. Yes, said Captain Crewe, drawing Sarah close. She is a darling little creature. Take great care of her for me, Miss Minchin. Sarah stayed with her father at his hotel for several days. In fact, she remained with him until he sailed away again to India. They went out and visited many big shops together and bought a great many things. They bought, indeed, a great many more things than Sarah needed. But Captain Crewe was a rash, innocent young man, and wanted his little girl to have everything she admired, and everything he admired himself. So, between them, they collected a wardrobe, much too grand for a child of 7. There were velvet dresses trimmed with costly furs, and lace dresses, and embroidered ones, hats with great soft ostrich feathers, and ermine coats, and muffs, and boxes of tiny gloves, and handkerchiefs, and silk stockings, in such abundant supplies that the polite young women behind the counters whispered to each other that the odd little girl with the big solemn eyes must have at least some foreign princess. Must be at least some foreign princess, perhaps the little daughter of an Indian Rajah. And at last they found Emily, but they went to a number of toy shops and looked at a great many dolls before they finally discovered her. I want her to look as if she wasn't a doll, really, Sarah said. I want her to look as if she listens when I talk to her. The trouble with dolls, Papa, and she put her head on one side and reflected as she said it. The trouble with dolls is that they never seem to hear. So they looked at the big ones and little ones. So they looked at big ones and little ones. At dolls